Hello and welcome to the Excalibur podcast. My name is Dan Freeman. I'm the writer and director of the Welsh fantasy feature film Excalibur. And with me is Dr. Dave Palser, the production designer of Excalibur.
Hello.
Say hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
It's one of those jokes that amuses only me.
Well, I'm quite amused by it as well. But
today I guess we should start with a catch up. I've just been meeting with Mike, the mead maker from Mountain Mead, and
all the M's.
All the M's, yeah. Mike the Mead is making us a mead for the film. We've got a number of sort of partnerships going along with the film, which with Welsh businesses and kind of cool, very typically Welsh things. So we've been talking about how's the label going for that, Dave? You're designing the label.
It's going well. Now I've established, Mike and I have had a few backwards and forwardses, and we've established something that is kind of remains on brand with his brand, which I think is important because it's all very easy to sort of to wade in and stamp your own personal mark upon something when it's not even your thing. You know, I hate stepping on people's toes, and I know he's generous and flexible, whatever. But I still wouldn't want to be me now, you know, and you know it's not. So I think he remarks that I'd noticed something that within the design. About the landscape horizon lines, which I pretty much saw immediately, actually, and thought, well, this can work because we are talking about a landscape. And so characters, silhouettes, and little tantalising glimpses of what those characters will be will feature big time in the label design. I think it's nice because you get a hint of who these characters are being fleshed out at this stage, and then later down the line we will do the proper reveal of the characters through the labels.
So just to be clear,
I'm unclear, you see, dear reader.
Yes, you are. On the website we've got these silhouettes of some of the characters, and the idea is to sort of tease, I suppose, and show you what the characters look like, get you curious, get people curious, and then we reveal the proper look of them later at a later date. And that's the same with these. Mike is creating some limited edition special meads that are, if you don't know what mead is, it's honey, alcohol made from honey. And we're doing a series of them, some for each character. I think there's going to be a limited edition of like 100 bottles only. So they'll, you know, the idea is always that they increase in value, things increase in value. So if you kind of support the film at an early stage,
you have mead access at a reasonable price.
Yeah,
it's really like trying to book to go and see the Ziegler character singing Evita. That if a few months ago you bought your ticket, it was £29, but now apparently £700.
Wow, I don't know what any of that is. So, but I'm in. I've got so many pounds flying around. So 700's nothing.
Okay, just pay it and then not even go.
Yeah. And how's the poster going? Because just to explain, we're creating a poster. When I say me, I mean Dave is creating a poster for Excalibur, and sometimes there's no getting away from something that's gone before. I mean, really, the ideal poster for this kind of heroic film is the Star Wars poster by Ralph McQuarrie, and I'll put that up on the screen now. That's really the model for posters, and it's a model for modern posters,
I say that laughingly, referring to a concept art that was done 50 years ago.
Wow, yeah, it was 50 years.
Because 74 when when those pictures started coming out. It's half a century, so it's not even modern filmmaking, really, isn't it? But even then, it was done in a very classic style of illustration, truly epic in the correct use of the term, and it nods to the 40s and the 50s. It's a lot to do with like the old Flash Gordon posters and the TV serial, sorry, the movie serial, Saturday Morning Picture Show posters, which of course were a massive influence on Star Wars itself. It was he took a lot of the feel, and feel, it does that film, for all its faults. It does feel you've got that adventure, and that has to be there in the poster. I'm always disappointed. We'll just leave it there, shall we? But I'm generally disappointed when I just see arrays of heads on a poster and a title in a slightly beveled font from the 1990s. It's the character of posters has diminished, and I know why it is, and it's about branding and studios, and the people want to see their heroes, they want to see the people that they like, they want to see the actors' faces. But I think that personally, I would like to see a little more. I want a hint, I want something to lure me in. I want a flavour of what I'm going to see rather than just who I'm going to see.
I think that's a very important point about the Star Wars style poster, because it's compositionally perfect. It's got but it tells you a whole story in one poster. If you it's got the epic scope. I don't know how you create that, not being able to draw. I don't know how you create that sort of sense of an enormous kind of landscape of a universe with all those, I suppose it's all the flying spacecraft, isn't it? And
yeah, of which there's thousands of them coming round in it. There's thousands of X-Wing fighters, which are almost X-Wing fighters. You're not sure what they are. But there's lots of ships, and you've got the kind of the Death Star thing. When I first saw that poster, I saw it in a copy of a Reader's Digest that I stole from my dentist's waiting room when I must have been very, very young, about 6 or something. And they don't show the whole poster. And so there was this kind of thing in the background. I always wondered what it was until I saw the real variation upon. Of course, it's the Darth Vader head. And so it's kind of like ambiguous about, and it's nice because I got more of the picture of what it was. So it wasn't until a couple of years later that I actually saw the real one. And I mean, it's a genius bit. It's a genius bit. The floating heads and lots of teal and orange and sparks, which just seems to be every poster, unless it goes completely the other direction and we have a more Saul Bass minimalist interpretation. And I like those. There's a lot to be learned from non-Western film posters as well. If you have a look, there's better storytelling because it's less led by Hollywood's studio system. So they're more open to interpretive art to go to accompany the release, and I think that's an interesting thing. It's something that I am looking forward to do this because neither do I want it just to be a massive love story to things that I like. It's got it that can be part of it naturally, but it's just got to be good. Really, it's got to be good, and really, you put it up. The purpose of it is to make people say, "I need to see that film now," and that's and
it's got to be the whole film. That's the thing in Star Wars. with that poster, it's the whole film in one image.
Yeah, and
And
really well done.
what are you thinking of? Have you got an equivalent, for example, of the X-wing fighters, or that what creates that sweep? Because I've seen you've got the image of Gualchmai, and then Arthur, and then you're going to have Gwen Huivar, aren't you? The and then
And our
and
new
then
bard.
and our new bard, yeah, with the bard. We're going to talk about that in a minute because
The bard doing a very heroic sort of pose with a ball of light.
great. So,
um,
well, we'll talk about him in a sec. Tell me about how are you going to achieve that sort of epic sweep?
it's largely it's about the position of the camera as such when you look at it, because something that is low and looking upwards generally tends to give things an exaggerated feeling of importance, but it lifts us out of reality because we generally look at things straight on, whatever height we are, and if you lower the camera, things look more heroic. It's why the Daleks for 60 years were photographed in low angles, because they don't look quite as scary straight on. Low down, my God, you got this kind of evil silhouette. It's the shape. It's. I mean, I don't really want to reveal all my tricks, but if you base things within a triangle, it's always good. And the epic sweep as such will be a combination of something to do with evil and the natural evil force and how it manifests on this material plane, and atmospherics, as in vapors, cloud smokes, inks.
And have you got the equivalent of a Darth Vader's face looming over or something?
Of course, yeah, I have.
Oh, right. So who's that? Or are we not allowed to know yet?
Well, do you want to open your presents before Christmas or what? Of course, the answer is yes. Yes, I do.
It isn't, No, I'm a big fan of Christmas Eve.
Really?
Yeah. I remember teaching my son what he called anticipation.
That's good. Yeah,
I remember him standing, going like this. We stood and anticipated something.
That's good. That's good.
So let's go on to the hat. I'm going to put up the hat picture you sent me with the because I think the thing about this image is that what we're considering, readers, is the sort of that we like the idea of characters not having one uniform, one costume, having several costumes so that like real people do change their clothes, and so we think it's a similar thing to the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes in the 80s, wasn't it? And he was the first Sherlock Holmes to have different hats. He had the deerstalker.
Well, he wore the deerstalker once,
right?
As in the canon, he wears it once, and it's only Basil Rathbone that really did that. That just had that, and but those Basil Rathbone things are really weird when you think about it, because all of those films, they're set in the 40s. They're not set. Yeah. They're not set in the late 19th century. They're set in wartime Britain, and it's so it's kind of weird. But of course, Rathbone in a huge performance. Adopted this sort of silhouette of this deerstalker and pipe, and that became kind of the film branding for that thing. So it was as important about establishing the brand of that particular run of films that then became the archetype, because they were the first real collection of those things to do. But Jeremy Brett was amazing at Sherlock Holmes anyway. In fact, I think he's the best Sherlock Holmes, because he actually did play him as a nuanced, eccentric crackhead who was very much an anti-hero as much as anything. He's just world weary of absolutely everything, and living a life behind half-closed curtains. I mean, it's almost Withnell, but with clues. And and it's really good. But he dons the fashion of the time. Sherlock Holmes had money. He was well dressed, and it was generally a top hat of various heights, depending on the year in which it was set, because hats are a real interesting part. If you are obsessed with costume, hats and shoes are where it's at. And it doesn't seem to matter so much what happens in between, funnily enough. But hats and shoes have always been a mark of where you are in society, because they are either labour and work orientated, or they are just extravagance orientated. And so his hat over those 4 series that Granada did is at different heights, and they look the costume designers on that were absolutely spot on. And the height of the frock coat, the amount of buttons on the waist, because waistcoat, said a certain thing about the economic situation that you were in. But hats are very important. And what do we think of when we think of wizards? It's come down to, and I mean, even Jackson's reference to made up line, I hasten to add, of old gentleman, pointy hat, and but that is it. That is the Gandalf Merlin archetype. So how do you do that and make it new and not boring and not just it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Make it credible.
Of course, credible is the word that we always use on this production, because we're not trying to be historically accurate. We're trying to feel like you can believe it, and because it is a fantasy. So we did initially start with the idea of not having the pointy hat at all for Myrddin, who is now, of course, Taliesin, because we've changed the name of the main character. And we initially thought we wouldn't have the wizard's pointy hat, because, frankly, it's been perfected by Gandalf, I think. So, but now we are coming back to it maybe as a sort of a sort of ceremonial thing with the pointy hat. And I have slightly bad news in that the image you sent me. You sent me the image, and then it was a lazy Sunday afternoon, and me and my daughter and her friend sat down and watched Harry Potter, and it looks very much like the Sorting Hat in Harry Potter. But I'm not sure that's bad news. But
the archetypes are in us. I'll bring out that again, Arthur Machen, and it's there is a reason why there are the universal props and ceremonial gear across particular colours of magic that you perform, and priests worldwide tend to wear robes. Okay. And depending upon the order of what they are, and also to do with most kind of things that have a ceremonial connection, be it the judicial system, where it's pure theatrical artifice of the level of importance you are as a judge, and that's down to the length of the wig and and the different, whether it's academic, you know, the kind of robe you wear, your degree or masters or whatever, doctor, what you have a more elaborate robe, the higher you get. Masonry and Freemasonry, which is a very, very interesting area of modern ceremonial magic. And that's so wrapped up in its own symbolism and levels of orders. 37 degrees of Masonic, that is fascinating. And so, but everybody wears robes. Everybody wears hats, and the wizard's hat comes from a lot of sources. And I've looked really that where I've arrived at this is partly to do with Druidism, old traveling pilgrimage figures where you would have a broad-brimmed hat, and it was often a symbol of ministry. It also has a practical use; it keeps the rain off, and
the sun,
and the sun. The shaman. I've looked at a lot of shaman, Russian, shaman, Polish, people living in much more extreme areas of cold. There's a lot of Inuit stroke diabolism and occult based ceremony where it's still very much a thing. The further you get north, the further you get south, the more relevant the occult streams are, even in now. And the shaman, the witch doctors, the magic user, whatever we wish to call these, will still don the robes of office and the hat. And the Afghani shaman have pointy hats. They have pointy hats that come down because they're held down, and it's bent, not because it's sort of, there's a reason for the bend. It's usually because it's held down with something at the end. And I've looked at a lot of Afghanistan, and actually the hats are weighed down with bells and charms, and it forces the fabric into a natural sort of bend. And so it's a reason where you see Gandalf's hat and that ludicrous thing that Sylvester had to wear for Radagast, which just made no sense whatsoever. It's they're bent without reason. There's no they're just sort of that. Well, that's look, and the sorting hat possibly it's because that it looks like an old hat. So if it's old, it's not fresh out the box. Therefore, it's ceremonial. Therefore, it's from an older time. It's all these kind of tropes and sort of things that we align to understand the costume. So really, it's come from true life shamanism. And when I looked at the tools of what the priests are using, is that I found in one particular Afghani group of traveling wizards. I mean, they actually have traveling wizards. Who doesn't want to go? It's brilliant. And but the artifacts are precious, and there's two things involved here. Is one that they're precious, so they need to be kept clean and pristine, because they're old and they're special and they're reverential. And so they're continually dusted to keep. But there's another reason, and it's about the electricity and the natural atom count of the artifacts themselves and the atmosphere that they work. So they have to have dust will break the signal. It's that. So they continually brush these things, and so you look at some of so there's sort of things like rabbit's paws and ermine tails hanging down, and they're all sort of like housekeeping. And so these long ceremonial brushes, which are also then dipped into, it's like when performing a high mass benediction, where you dip and you do the water. If it's in a brush, it absorbs more of the fluid. The ceremony appears greater. It's about emphasis, and also for mixing. So the brush and the tail is very important in both ancient and modern practice or continuation of ancient ritual, even practice today. So these have started to feature in Taliesin's costume, credibility, and actually things for a reason. It also gives a lovely bit of stage business that can be performed.
Yes.
But he doesn't wear the hat all the time, and this is the thing. And
No.
again, Peter Jackson is that can we believe that Saruman the White was able to maintain that glowing white, being stuck in Orthanc for 1,000 years, and still comes out radiant and shining. They never change. They never change the costumes. Nobody changes any clothes in Jackson's films. It's like, and I always thought this about The Hobbit. That's a long journey, right? How many pairs of pants are you going to pack?
Hobbit pants.
Hobbit pants, and there are a few costume changes by necessity, i.e., when Frodo and Sam have to go to Mordor and they disguise themselves in the rags of the orcs and whatever. But it's never really addressed. And there's all that for me always, not just in Lord of the Rings and me being critical and hypercritical of those terrible films, is that
brilliant films.
Is that I like to have a society that I look at because it's world creation, and you believe the clothes can look lived in, they can work, but people do change during the day or the next day or the day after and that sort of thing. And for the purposes of ours, we will see our characters in various editions of their costume. But for him, the ceremonial robe and the ceremonial hat will be for that purpose when he comes to do the business. That's when he will don them. It's a rather long answer. I do apologise.
For our remaining viewer, thank you for watching. So we'll leave it there. I hope it's been interesting. Join us at excaliburfilm.com if you'd like to hear or see more about the film. My name is Dan Freeman. I'm the writer and director of Excalibur. And that guy is Dr. Dave Palser, the production designer. Say goodbye, Dave.
Bye, Dave.
Goodbye.